They lined up colorful envelopes for every grandchild, and then skipped my kid. I'm Rachel, 34, and my daughter Paula, she's 8, sat there in her yellow dress, smiling like this was finally the day she belonged. That's when my mother-in-law, Susan, looked straight at her and said, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "We've decided you don't count as family." Paula froze. The room went dead. Nobody stopped it. My husband, Adam, placed his own envelope back on the table and said, "If my daughter isn't your family, then neither am I." We took Paula's hands and walked out while everyone stared. But here's what they didn't expect. 3 days later, their lawyer called, and they went pale. Have you ever been betrayed by the people who swear they're family? Tell me in the comments. But to understand why, you need to see exactly what happened in that room, how they did it in front of everyone, to an 8-year-old who still believed family meant safety. The dining room was holding its breath long before the envelopes came out. Tense quiet. The kind where everyone knows something ugly is coming except the one person it's going to hit hardest. Paula bounced in her chair, whispering to me that yellow is a happy color. She kept smoothing her dress like she was getting ready for a photo. Susan stood at the head of the table with a stack of envelopes. Cream ones for adults, bright decorated ones for kids. One by one, she called the cousins forward. Each child tore theirs open and read a sugary message out loud. Grandma's sunshine. Grandpa's pride. We love you so much. Polite claps. Smiles that didn't reach anyone's eyes. And then, she skipped Paula. Not a mistake. She reached right over my daughter like she wasn't even sitting there and handed the next envelope to the next kid. Paula's smile flickered, but she stayed hopeful, because 8-year-olds believe in fairness like it's gravity. She leaned forward every time Susan's hand moved, waiting for her name. The last cousin finished. The clapping died. Paula sat there with empty hands. Susan finally turned to her with that soft, syrupy voice people use right before they hurt you. "Oh, honey, I know you've been waiting." Paula's face lit up for half a second. Then Susan said, "We've talked about this a lot, and we hope you understand. But we've decided you don't count as family." It landed like a guillotine. Paula's fingers clenched in her dress. She stared at Susan like she'd been slapped, then whispered, "Did I do something wrong?" Nobody answered. Norman nodded like this was normal. Sabrina shifted. Sean stared at the table. Tina sucked in a breath. Even Owen muttered, "What the hell?" And still, no one stopped it. My husband asked, quiet and deadly, "Where's her envelope?" Susan held out his adult envelope like a prize. "You still get yours. Your family." He looked at it, then at Paula. He set it back on the table, flat and final. "If my daughter isn't your family," he said, "then neither am I." We left with Paula's small hands in ours. In the car, she didn't cry. She just stared straight ahead, silent, like the world had rewritten the rules. At home, she folded between us on the couch and whispered the question that broke me. Did you lose money because of me? Did you lose money because of me? The words, because of me, went straight through me. Adam blinked hard, then slid off the couch and dropped to his knees in front of Paula. "Hey, look at me," he said, gentle but unbreakable. When her eyes finally lifted, he held them. "Paula, listen carefully. I didn't lose anything because of you. I chose to leave because I'm your dad." His hand pressed to his chest. "You're my family. If they can't see that, then I don't want a single thing from them. Not a cent." Her chin trembled. She didn't scream. She just climbed into his arms and clung to him like he was the only solid thing left. Adam wrapped around her, smoothing her hair over and over, like repetition could undo cruelty. After she fell asleep, Adam and I stood outside her door. He stared at the floor, voice rough. "I keep thinking about what I just gave up," he whispered, "and I don't even know the size of it." "You didn't walk away from money," I said. "You walked away from people who told our daughter she doesn't belong." He nodded, but he didn't look relieved. We sat in the living room, too wired to rest, too drained to move. Then he said quietly, "I don't even know if they can exclude her." I turned. "What do you mean?" "Their inheritance isn't technically theirs," he said. A lot of it comes from my grandmother's trust. It's structured, multi-generational, and she was adopted." His eyes met mine. She would have never made a bloodline distinction. Not ever. My pulse jumped. "Have you seen the trust documents?" He shook his head. "They kept everything. I've never had the paperwork." "Then we get it," I said. "We hire a lawyer, ASAP." Ms. Daly listened without flinching while Adam explained the envelopes, Susan's words, Paula's face. When he finished, she didn't soften. "You're a beneficiary," she said. "You're legally entitled to the trust documentation. They can't hide it from you." "So we can get the papers?" I asked. "We can demand them," she corrected, and drafted the request on the spot. Notarized. Sent that afternoon. The next morning, less than an hour after the letter was delivered, Adam's phone rang. His parents' number lit up the screen. He answered on speaker. Norman exploded. "How dare you send a lawyer after us? You humiliated us." Susan cut in, furious. "And now you want money after you walked out." Adam didn't budge. "I want what my grandmother intended," he said. "Nothing more, nothing less." Susan's voice turned sharp as glass. "Not after choosing that girl over your real family." Adam pressed end. A clean, final click. 3 days later, Miss Daly called. "They sent the trust packet," she said. "You'll want to come in." Adam and I drove there in silence because we could both feel it now. This wasn't just about one missing envelope. Something bigger was underneath. Something bigger was underneath. And the moment Miss Daly shut her office door, I felt it in my bones. Her space was the expensive kind of quiet, soundproof, controlled. Like emotions weren't allowed to echo. She didn't offer small talk. She pulled a thick binder onto the desk, plastic sleeves, aged paper, signatures from people long gone, and slid it toward us like it weighed more than paper ever should. "Here," she said, flipping to a tab marked in fading ink. Adam leaned in first. I watched his eyes move line by line, like he was afraid the words would change if he blinked. And there it was. Grandchildren shall each receive equal shares. Not biological grandchildren, not bloodline grandchildren, just grandchildren. Adam let out a breath like someone had been sitting on his lungs for years. "So Paula counts," he whispered, like he needed to hear himself say it out loud. Ms. Daly nodded. "Legally? Yes." My throat tightened. Relief came fast, then stalled because Ms. Daly didn't look relieved. Her eyebrows drew together as she turned another page. "Hold on," she murmured. She rotated the binder and tapped a handwritten line in the margin. Older ink, firm strokes, personal. For avoidance of doubt, grandchildren includes all legally adopted descendants. A chill crawled up my spine. Adam's voice went thin. "That's my grandmother's handwriting." Ms. Daly's eyes didn't leave the page. "She was very explicit," she said carefully, "which makes what your in-laws did curious." That word, curious, didn't feel harmless. It felt like a warning with polite packaging. "Is this enough to file?" I asked, my fingers curling around the edge of the chair. "In theory, yes," she said, "but I want to examine the rest before we act. This trust is large, complex." She paused, scanning further, then looked up at Adam slowly. "Adam, did your parents ever transfer any trust distributions to you at any age?" Adam blinked, confused. "No. Why?" Ms. Daly didn't answer right away. She tapped a section with her pen. "Because according to this," she said, voice measured, "you were supposed to receive a distribution at 18 and another at 25. I felt my stomach drop like an elevator cable had snapped. Adam's face drained. "That can't be right," he whispered. "I never got anything." Ms. Daly nodded once. "I'm guessing you never saw a cent." Adam shook his head, slow, stunned. It wasn't just anger in his eyes. It was something older, like he was replaying his entire life and realizing the rules had been rigged the whole time. Ms. Daly closed the binder, not dramatically, not for effect, carefully, like she was sealing up something dangerous. "There may be more here," she said. "A lot more. I need to run a deeper analysis before I tell you anything certain." "What does more mean?" I asked, and I hated how small my voice sounded in that room. She folded her hands. It means what happened to Paula may only be the tip of the iceberg. The air got tight. Adam swallowed hard. So what do we do now? Ms. Daly slid a short form toward us. For now, you authorize me to request a full accounting, quietly, formally, before they realize what we found. I looked at Adam. He looked at me. Fear was there, yes, but something else stood behind it. Resolve. The kind that doesn't negotiate. Do it, I said. We signed. Ink on paper. Fast. Final. As we stood to leave, Ms. Daly's voice followed us like a shadow. Prepare yourselves. People don't hide things unless the truth is worse. And walking down that hallway under those humming fluorescent lights, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about an envelope. It was about everything they'd been taking for decades and what they'd do to keep it buried. The days after that meeting felt like living inside a held breath. Paula started coloring again, but she flinched at every car door outside. Every night she asked, "Are they coming back?" And every night we told her the same thing. No. She held that word like a blanket, new, unfamiliar, but finally warm. Adam and I jumped at every vibration on our phones. We tried to act normal, but nothing about us was normal. On the third evening, Adam stared at the dark window and muttered, "They're coordinating. I know that silence." He was right. The knock came the next morning, not frantic, not loud, firm, confident, the kind of knock that said, "We belong inside." Adam opened the door. Susan and Norman stood there wearing smiles that didn't match what they'd done. Norman held a tin of cookies like a prop. Susan held her dignity like it was fragile glass. "Adam, sweetheart," she said, as if we'd all just had a lovely dinner and nothing else, "we'd really love to talk." Shock is a physical force. We let them in. They sat on our couch like they were hosting us. Norman placed the cookies on the coffee table, right next to Paula's crayons, like an insult. "We've been thinking," Norman began, voice flat like he was presenting a quarterly report, "about the envelopes, about the misunderstanding." Misunderstanding. The word people use when they don't want to say cruelty. Susan leaned forward. "We truly want to make things right. We want Paula to feel included." My spine went rigid. Adam didn't respond. He just watched them with that dangerous calm that told me he was done being managed. Susan continued carefully. "We may have acted too quickly. We didn't have enough time to bond with her." Her smile wobbled. "But of course, she's part of the future distribution." Translation hit me instantly. "We regret getting caught." Then Norman added, "We're willing to advance your portion early, a gesture of goodwill." There it was, the bribe wrapped in frosting. Adam's voice was quiet, precise. "You want us to withdraw the legal request." Susan's smile tightened. Norman's jaw twitched. "We just don't think lawyers are necessary," Susan said sweetly. "It'll be unpleasant for everyone." Translation: "Stop digging before you find what we buried." Adam leaned forward for the first time. "You're not sorry," he said. "You're scared." Silence fell so hard the room felt tilted. Norman snapped, "That's outrageous. We've managed this estate responsibly for decades." Adam stood, and something in him looked taller than it had the day before. "Then you shouldn't mind the lawyer finishing her review." Susan's face hardened. "This is disgusting," she hissed. "Going after your own parents." Her eyes flicked toward the hallway, toward Paula's room, like my child was a stain we refused to scrub out. "You went after my child," Adam said calmly. Susan's voice rose. "You're choosing her over your real family." Adam walked to the front door and opened it. Wide. Final. They left in a storm of wounded pride and sputtered insults, their cookies forgotten on our table like a last attempt at control. Adam locked the door, then checked it twice, then pressed his forehead to the frame like he'd been holding himself together with sheer will. I touched his back. "You okay?" He exhaled slowly, like someone finally letting go of a weight he'd carried his entire life. "I'm done," he said. "I'm done letting them decide who counts." And that's when I understood the real shift. This wasn't just Adam defending Paula. This was Adam waking up, seeing the pattern, the manipulation, the way they'd trained everyone to obey. And now that we'd refused, they weren't trying to fix the damage. They were trying to stop the truth. After they stormed out, the house felt different. Like we'd finally shut a door that had been open to poison for years. We stayed no contact. Paula slept deeper. Adam breathed fuller. And meanwhile, Ms. Daly kept working in that quiet, methodical way that made my nerves worse. Because real investigations don't come with comforting timelines. Then, in week 3, she asked us to come in. Paula sat in the corner of Ms. Daly's office with crayons, humming to herself like she was rebuilding safety, one small color at a time. Adam sat upright, both feet planted like he expected a courtroom ambush. Ms. Daly slid a folder across the desk. "You were right to question them," she said. "Not just about Paula, about everything." She showed us the pattern: missing distributions, redirected funds, withdrawals disguised as maintenance, numbers old enough to have dust on them. Then she turned the page. According to the trust, every grandchild was supposed to receive scheduled distributions at 18, at 25, milestone after milestone. Adam's line was empty. So was his sister's, his brother's, the other branches too. "Not a single one," Miss Daly said, "for over 20 years. I felt my stomach drop as the why finally took shape. Susan and Norman hadn't just been cruel, they'd been stealing. 6 months later, the audit detonated the entire family myth. Adam's siblings called first, stunned, furious, because every gift Susan and Norman had bragged about giving was really money pulled from the trust while they pocketed the rest. The court's ruling was brutal and clean. The original trust was dissolved, and individual subtrusts were created for each grandchild. Adam was named trustee for Paula's. Then came the numbers. Adam's share, about $746,000, paid out in full. Paula's trust should have held around $472,000, but it only had $181,000, and Paula wasn't the only one shorted. So the court ordered the only thing that was fair. Susan and Norman's pension is now garnished every month, divided across all the grandchildren's trusts, including Paula's, until the shortfalls are repaid. They sold their house, downsized to a tiny rental, and us? We're finally free. So tell me, did we go too far or not far enough?